you're just joining us from around the world, it's Enterprise Friday here on Enterprise Television. We head into our main conversation. The Nigerian House of Representatives has set a deadline for the old 200 naira, 500 naira and 1000 naira notes to cease being legal tender by December 31st, 2024.
And during a plenary session, the House called on the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to initiate a public awareness and order banks to stop paying out the old notes.
And this move constructs with a Supreme Court ruling which previously extended the use of the old notes and declared that old and new naira notes would coexist as legal tender.
The House decision follows a motion by Afam Ogene, who expressed concerns over the CBN's failure to adequately inform the public about the deadline.
And moving on, Ogene warned that Nigerians would or could face chaos similar to the 2023 cash scarcity if the CBN does not begin withdrawing old notes from circulation.
And also the motion unanimously adopted urged the CBN to distribute more new notes and start phasing out the old ones.
Okay, to do justice to this particular story and give us detailed analysis into this story, because it's going to be an unfolding one and one that is going to be continuous, we have with us in the House Emeka Magnago, who is a public affairs analyst and commentator. Good morning, Mr. Emeka.
Hello.
Good morning, Emeka.
Yeah,
all right, so just before we get into the conversation, I think there is a developing story that I would love to read, of course, which works with what we just read out, and it's coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria, which of course has debunked the rumor making the rounds that the old 200 naira, 500 naira, 1000 naira notes will cease to be legal tender after December 31 of 2024. The bank, in a statement signed by its acting director, corporate communications, CD Ali Hakama, described the claim as false and calculated to disrupt the country's payment system. Emeka Madunago, when we have a contradictory interpretation of policies and actions of government coming from the parliamentarians and equally coming differently from agents of government given the responsibility to do some of these things, what are we looking at?
I think, thank you so much. It's just unfortunate that operatives in different sectors of government don't know what the Constitution says about their roles and responsibilities and the limitations of their powers. The legislature is number one in the Nigerian Constitution. 1999 Constitution as amended. The legislature is number one to make laws. The executive, number two, to implement the laws. Then the judiciary is number three, to interpret the laws. Where there are areas of conflict, it's the judiciary that should come in and, sort out any gray areas. Unfortunately, the National Assembly has, in some of its pronouncements, sought to, take over the role of the judiciary. I don't want to use the word usurp, but, because it may be as a result of maybe overzealousness or willful ignorance, on the part of those, like this case, the person who moved it is actually interesting. He's a journalist and an editor, so he ought to know better. I mean, before you move a motion, you must have got adequate information about that subject matter. But you just came, put it, and it was put to a vote. The deputy speaker, without even seeking to clarify the situation, just threw the House into a big embarrassment. It's a huge embarrassment. How would the international community not laugh at us, when they see things like this, just drawn out of palpable ignorance? The Supreme Court gave a clear, has spoken on this matter, and said clearly that both the new note and the old notes will continue to exist side by side indefinitely. Why? The cost of printing naira notes is quite expensive. So the CBN under the former Governor Emefiele had actually toyed with a digital currency, but somehow its implementation was limited. Now, that digital currency has not been phased out as a legal tender. It's still there. But these notes too are being used side by side, so that there wouldn't be a distortion in the economy. At this time, the country is going through, some rough patches. So, those in charge of the monetary policy, which is the exclusive job of the CBN, have made this decision backed by the Supreme Court. And don't forget, the CBN, according to the law establishing it, ought to act independently. The CBN there should not be the impression that any arm of government is actually dictating to the CBN what it should do. Now, this action by the central bank can also affect the economy in negative ways. This pronouncement by the House of Representatives, because the CBN ought to be independent. The CBN should not be seen to be taking orders from any agency of government, because that's why you have the Monetary Policy Committee, the MPC, and they meet every month. So when you now say the CBN should do this, what you're doing is that the CBN Act, as amended, which was passed by an act of parliament, which is actually an act of parliament, I beg your pardon, you are now contradicting the same act that the parliament, passed, and which was assented to, according to due process. What you're doing is that you don't even understand the provisions of the CBN Act. You don't understand the entire gamut of the issues around the old and new Naira notes. And so that was why you had such a resolution. It's quite embarrassing, and I think the House of Representatives should quickly move to withdraw that resolution and save itself from further embarrassment, because it asks its committee on banking, to look into the matter and to let the CBN. It's embarrassing.
Okay, now
it's ridiculous.
When you're saying it's ridiculous, so should Nigerians, because you're saying it's ridiculous, and the parliament should sit down and review this, and they should
not even review, they should apologize to Nigerians for issuing misleading information. They should apologize to Nigerians for wasting legislative hours that ought to be spent on serious issues pertaining to the welfare of Nigerians. You see, that is how people just go. You see them moving around, but no productivity, no result. And that is why you see the economy is in a tailspin. The economy is not moving. The economy is not growing, because it appears everybody focuses on is President Bola Tinubu. Or you have a National Assembly that ought to debate the thorny areas, the grey areas, the fine print in policies, monetary policies, fiscal policies.
Okay. Thank you, Emeka. You've actually answered the question, and you've also given solution. Now, if they fail to do this, apologize and withdraw, what will be the effect?
The CBN has already given them a hot slap in the face. It's just in their best interest to come out and save their reputation, or else columnists will further savage them, and nobody will take them seriously. And I'm not surprised if they could actually delve into the issues of somebody who went to prison, and whether he was sleeping in prison or sleeping in a hotel. If we can reduce legislative, business to such mundane matters, then no surprises that such a blunder could come from the House of Representatives.
Okay, thank you, Barrister Emeka. Emeka Madunago. At this point now, we are saying that there are other important issues. Which other important issues should the legislative or the parliament look into, instead of bringing up the legal tender and its time of expiration?
Very good. I love such questions. You see, I adjusted myself very well. First of all, the cost of doing business is high in Nigeria. Government needs support. The executive arm needs support from the legislature. There should be robust debates on how, when we talk about reducing the cost of governance, what are we even talking about? 2, ease of doing business. Look at how long, look at neighboring countries, how long it takes you to register a business. I've been trying to register one business now, it's almost a year. Just a business name. If today they bring this one, tomorrow they bring this one, they bring this one, just to register a business, something that in some countries takes 24 hours. I think Rwanda, is it not 48 hours or so, or some 2 hours? You are not looking at that. The numerous checkpoints all over the country that are just extortion points, the House of Representatives is not interested in that. Then you look at the issue of, the general downturn in the economy, the fall in the purchasing power of Nigerians. President Bola Tinubu last year, October, I guess, if I remember well, actually announced a stimulus plan for manufacturers and businesses. Up till now, that stimulus plan has not been implemented. Now, tying it to this, ridiculous resolution by the House of Representatives, you find out that, you see, stimulus. What is a stimulus plan? A stimulus plan is just like government releasing money, to stimulate economic activities, to make economic activities more robust, so that people can spend money. In layman's language, in the language of the man on the street, is making sure that there is more money available, for exchange. Now, instead of doing that, you are talking about the color of the currency. What has it got to do? Many countries are going into cashless systems. Many countries are reducing cash, the quantum of cash in the economy. Now, you are not even looking at the budget for this year. What did the budget for this year say about how much Nigeria should spend on printing currency? You know how expensive it is to print currencies. And you are saying we should print more. Our debt, maybe we need to go to the World Bank to go and borrow money again to print currency. You see, we must stop all these things that, show that we are not serious. In fact, that we don't even have a grasp of the issues. The National Assembly should get more serious. When I say there are more serious issues, there are other issues, but just because of time. You have the cost of oil production. The chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zak Adedeji, said some time back that Nigeria had the highest figure for cost of oil production, $45.17 per barrel. Whereas a country like Saudi Arabia spends $10 per barrel in its production. What kind of a thing is that? Saudi Arabia even produces more crude than we do. We are not even meeting up to our OPEC quota. And then we have more expensive, a more expensive cost. Then something is wrong somewhere. Then look at this forward sales. It ought to stop. Forward sales using our crude, to mortgage, loans. It has to stop. Then look at ways and means. In fact, the National Assembly ought to apologize to Nigerians, because after the fiasco under the former President Muhammadu Buhari, whereby the House of Reps approved 23 trillion for ways and means. Now, do you know at that time, let me tell you something interesting. That money at that time was the equivalent of $50 billion. That thereafter, China actually approved to disburse to 3 state banks covering different sectors, so that the money will be pushed to investors in different sectors, and then the economy could be made more robust. But what did we do here? We approved the printing of more money so as to help the executive arm to carry out ridiculous expenditure. Where did that 23 trillion go? Where did it go to? China approved $50 billion to boost its economy. What did we have here? We are approving 23 trillion naira to, for reckless, wasteful expenditure and to service corruption, if you permit that. So that's to tell you that those, we have a serious problem of apprehension of issues. People who make laws, we must be very careful the kind of people who go to the National Assembly, because we cannot afford. National Assembly is supposed to sit for 141 days every year. We cannot afford, in this tight economic time, that we're even saying we should reduce we should move from bicameral legislature to a unicameral legislature, and then people have enough time to waste on debating a resolution that is founded on falsehood. It is ridiculous. It's an embarrassment, and I demand that the House of Representatives must withdraw that resolution and apologize to Nigerians.
All right, so while we are awaiting the apology, of course, if it's possible to come from parliamentarians, since we're talking about the currency, Emeka, I'd love us to look at this particular issue. There's about a 4.14 trillion naira in circulation. of this money, 3.8 of that money is outside of the banking industry, or the banking ecosystem. And the point of sale, operators are making it even worse. In other parts of the world, you hardly see someone with cash. Everyone goes with their ATM cards. Whatever it is you want to buy, you either do with your card or you do a transfer. But in Nigeria, the point of sales had increased the number of cash liquidity outside of the banking system. How good do you think this is to our economy? Do we maybe mortgage creating more jobs, which people have said it has done, for point of sales operators, or is this hurting our economy? How do we balance that?
Yeah, thank you. You see, you even raised a problem now. We have so much outside the banking system, which is a problem identified by the CBN. Now, the House of Representatives want to now add to the problem. So we should go from 3-point-something trillion outside the banking system to maybe 50 trillion. And then when we start buying bread for 1 million naira, you look for bread for 1 million naira, then we'll come to our senses. You see, that is why lawmakers ought to be, people who are very careful about the pronouncements they make. They must think very seriously about the implications of resolutions they pass, of bills they debate. They must think very seriously, about it. Now, when we talk about the, such money out there, now you have to ask yourself a question. Looking at the general poverty in the country, where is that money? Where is that money? Where is it? Then you have to now, if you follow the pronouncement of EFCC, ICPC, the money is hiding in the septic tanks of politicians, in abandoned houses, in their roofs, and in different storehouses. How much is even with the POS operators? How much is with them? Let's not do things that, will worsen the poverty in the country and throw this country into chaos. What are the POS operators making daily? Can it meet their needs? These people have to recharge their devices. Can it meet their daily needs? We must be very, very sincere when we make all these policies. You say, okay, you say POS operators should go and register with the CAC. They've done that. Has it changed anything? The answer is no. So what you need to do is, make up your mind. And interesting, the Tinubu administration has not come out with a definite pronouncement on the cashless policy. It hasn't come out. What you see is just they've been hounding the former CBN governor.
Interested? Do you think Bola Ahmed Tinubu is even interested in the cashless?
Now that is the problem. That's why they are hounding Emefiele. Emefiele had a definite pronouncement on the cashless policy, but along the line, pressure from politicians made him forget that he was heading an independent institution. In fact, only for that breach of conduct, Emefiele ought to be seriously sanctioned for breaching his office as the head of an independent institution, for making monetary policies. That is by one side. Now we have to decide if we want to have a cashless policy. To what extent? Is it 10%? Is it 20? Is it 30? Is it 50? Is it 90? What are we going to do so that gradually we can withdraw the cash in circulation? But again, you also have to look at the ICT infrastructure in Nigeria. It's not robust enough. So you keep having, system downtimes. You keep having failures. In transactions. Return transactions, hanging transactions. There are people who tell you today that they lost money through transfers, going to 4, 5, 6 years, and that money has not been returned to them. And the CBN has not really done anything. What you saw was one funny statement by the CBN saying that it's committed to the robust operation of the financial system. Address the issue. If banks, if there are still unresolved issues with transfers, give banks a deadline to fix those issues and return people's money to them. Now, talking about the cashless policy, you see, you have to ask yourself a question. What are our major, economic activities in Nigeria? Where is it? A lot of money that is made in this country, 70% of it goes into recurrent expenditure, survival economics, food. Factories are closing down, so we don't even have regular power supply. There are a lot of distortions in the economic system. So what we must do is, while we are looking at the cash in circulation, we must also make it productive by doing things that will make money to circulate. Doing things that, for instance, states are now increasing wages. But where is the concomitant economic infrastructure, upgrading of the economic infrastructure to make sure that these increased wages are very benefit to us? What you see in some states, people are already saying that in a state like Lagos, that said they will pay, is it 85,000 or something, that much of that money will go back into taxation. That Lagos will take back much of that money from taxation. Now, I had suggested something, and I've repeated it a number of times. That it's not just about paying a minimum wage or paying a living wage. That I believe that part of the money approved as minimum wage should actually be non-physical. That it should go into certain things, certain activities, like consumer credit. It should stand as a collateral for consumer credit. Now, I don't know why the former Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Doris Uzok, was not able to launch the consumer credit system. I don't know what delayed it, because the student loan system has actually been launched and it's said to be running. Now, that consumer credit, you can tie it to workers' wages in such a way that, okay, if you say minimum wage is 85,000, of course, 85,000 can buy a bag of rice in Nigeria. You can even barely buy a bag of gari, So the point is, you can take a part of it and say, okay, let this stand and give you access to maybe buy a bag of rice, pay over maybe 6 months or 3 months. Buy this, buy that, you pay, so that you can be at ease. And then you can also have a card. Also talking about the cashless, you can have a card with which you access transportation everywhere. There was a time some people were doing it in University of Lagos, that if you boarded a bus with a card, there was this app that all you needed to do was just to tap the card on the app, and you pay with it. So if we have things like that.
No, the BOS already have it with the cowrie. It's there, and and it's working. Yes, but just
no, but public buses don't have it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. The BRT, the Danfos, the Keke, Marwa, the shuttle buses. We need to have all these things so that I want to pay. Okay, I tap, just tap the device in the bus, and then you pay. That will make it easy. Then you can even do it in such a way that, like Lag Ride, which is an initiative of Lagos, a ride-hailing service. That okay, you have a wallet. If you have a wallet, for public transportation, from that wallet, then you can have a card, for instance, that when you board a bus, it enables you to pay. You can pay for a bus, you can pay for Bolt, you can pay for Uber, you can pay for any, ride-hailing, all of them. So you don't have to have physical cash to take care of these things. Now you can pay in advance. So as you're getting your salary, if it's okay, out of 85,000, I'm going to devote monthly 30,000 to expenses, running costs, and all of those things. But now that running costs, you can spread it over a period of time. Like you see in many countries, look at Germany and others. A lot of people live on credit. But if the salary is regular, like you're a government official and you know that that salaries are really expected to be regular, then you can space these things so that life expectancy in Nigeria will rise.
Very well.
Thank you.
All right, just before we go, we have another story here. Of course, it's happening. Vice President Kashim Shettima's trip to Samoa to represent Nigeria at the 2024 Commonwealth Heads of Government Summit has been cancelled. after a foreign object hit his plane during a stopover at JFK Airport in New York. A statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, said that the foreign object that hit the plane damaged its cockpit windscreen. Emeka, speak to us.
We are a very, very funny country. You know, one of the things about success, and let me tell you today, is that you don't need to only be, you must be present. Not just present, but show presence. That's one of the qualities of somebody who wants to succeed. You must show presence in the places that matter. Where are the places where you spend your time? Where are the places where you go to? Nigeria, you know, you are not going to be at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting where you have King Charles, the British, a sovereign. You're going to have heads of state of, Commonwealth states. I think over 50 of them.
Yeah, 50.
And you are going to be absent from that place, and you need help. You're talking of debt forgiveness. You're talking of more support. You're talking of aid. You're talking of different things, and you are not on a global stage. Instead, you are sending a low-level ministerial delegation. Come on, why are we so serious?
Emeka, sorry to cut you short, but is this enough reason not to go for the...
That's what I'm saying. They should tell us the real reason why they don't want to go there.
And what do you think could be the real reason?
Well, it could be anything. It could be anything. It could be anything, you know. I mean, but to me, it's really demeaning that Nigeria, which is one of the leading Commonwealth nations, can be absent from such. Because look at the EU ACP agreement. You know, that's still being, we're still talking about reviewing. Now, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting is a veritable platform for Nigeria to push its own agenda about that EU ACP agreement. You know, it's a place where we can push out what is even the Nigerian agenda in anything. What is the Nigerian agenda in anything? Can you go anywhere now on Google or anywhere on internet and say this is the Nigerian agenda? What do we go to foreign platforms, to all those meetings to push? What do we push in all those places? Then, now again, we don't have any ambassador or high commissioner. It's almost, it's over 1 year now, and President Tinubu has not appointed any ambassador. He has recalled all the ambassadors and high commissioners. He has not appointed any. So, who is following up in all these visits? Tinubu has been, and Shettima have been junketing from one place to the other. Who is following up on all the agreements, all these meetings? Who is following up? And we need to be more serious as a nation, sincerely speaking. I feel very bad that we are missing such a very important meeting. That Shettima's aircraft was, and so what? Is it that government Nigeria is too poor to hire, to get a private jet from New York, for Shettima to go from New York to Samoa, which is just, just about how many hours? It just, they are just within the same geographical location. It does not as if he has to come back to Nigeria, before going to Samoa. So why would he not go? Okay, how does he intend to come back if he's not back yet? How does he intend to come back to Nigeria?
Okay, at this point now, this will be my last question. Now, can we say the Samoa agreement that caused a chaos, and there were questions from Nigerians and actually setting fire and pressure on the government, is playing a role now, and why they don't want to go there? Because maybe they would be put in a tight corner to answer or sign some documents they don't want to sign.
You see, the late Chief of Afemi Awolowo once said something that prolonged stay in the boycott arena will make you lose a lot of benefits. That don't continue boycotting, staying away. You're not helping yourself. It is better you go there and present the Nigerian agenda. Push it. Even if you don't succeed, it doesn't stop you. There will be other opportunities for you to continue pushing and all of that.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
If we as a country, we are economically stable, even financially, they can actually boldly push. But at the point where the government and the sitting president is still looking forward to getting a loan before the end of the year, will they be bold enough to still push the Nigerian agenda?
You see, let me tell you something. My late mother used to say something. She said the fact that you have knees, means that it's possible for you to beg. That if you have to kneel down, beg, then your knees will not break. See, we are in a critical situation. And if we have to go to anywhere to beg, let's go and beg for help. Yes. It is not the time to show pride or ego and all of that. You don't have it. You don't have the money. You don't have the means. A lot of things. You are borrowing to pay salaries, and pensions. You are borrowing to fund all your extravagance and all of that. And then you are staying away from where you can perhaps through side meetings. I have covered in 2003. I covered the Chogum in Abuja, and I was able to see. I attended some side meetings, and I was able to see how this, summit operates. It was a very interesting thing, So, and you usually have an off-record interaction between journalists and leaders. I attended it. You can talk to a president, a head of government, and ask questions, but you can't quote the person. Now, at such gatherings, the president of Nigeria, whoever is the representative, can actually walk up to some world leaders, whisper certain things. That, do you think we can tweak this? We can do this? All those things off the record, off stage interaction, sidelines, on the sidelines. There are certain things you can get. That's why you talk on the sidelines. That's why I see journalists usually want to, get what happens on the sidelines, after the long speeches. Then where are the lobbying on the sidelines and all of that? Or where are we? We don't even have, even if Shettima goes to Chogo, where is the High Commissioner to follow it up? Nobody.
Very so unfortunate. Very so unfortunate. And this is coming at a time when Nigeria should boldly be represented even at the BRICS happening at Cancal in Russia. But of course, we are nowhere to be found.
The one that you are talking of BRICS that is even far-fetched. Russia that is under international sanctions. We are even talking of the one, Chogum, that is free entry for Nigeria. A big member of the Commonwealth, with one of the biggest economies one of the biggest economies and populations in the Commonwealth, and you are staying away from such a meeting. I don't know who advised them, but it was very bad. It's very bad.
Let's say a very big thank you to you, Emeka Madnago. Thank you for your time, and thank you for breaking it down and giving us that detailed analysis. Harry, I want to say a very big thank you.
Thank you to you.
Thank you so much. And that's been the size of our package today on Enterprise Friday. We're glad you made it a date with us. Don't forget to follow us across all social media at Enterprise TV7. And remember to visit our website at www.enterprisetvnews.com. So we'll come again. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.